Hello, my name is Mike Lloyd, and I have never made a photography mistake in my life. All right, so I'm going to start this video out a little bit different. This is called 5 Mistakes I've Made Over the Years. And of course, I filmed this whole thing slightly out of focus. So you get a bonus mistake. I'm going to share a little story with you. I did a shoot about 10 years ago. I was shooting Canon at the time. I had the 5D Mark II, and I just bought the 135mm f2. It was an L lens, and it was like super sharp, just beautiful portrait lens. Loved everything about it. But I had no idea what f2 at 135mm actually looked like how shallow that depth of field really was. And almost every photo I took my first day out with it was out of focus. Thankfully, it wasn't a client shoot. It was just me going with the model to a park to take photos to just play around. But when I got back home and looked at all the photos, I couldn't believe how much I'd missed the focus because I didn't realize how shallow a depth of field it really was. So just goes to show, even after all this practice, all these years, we still make mistakes. So the bonus mistake you get to experience in this video is that sometimes even really good things end up out of focus. So the video is still pretty darn good. Definitely want to watch it. It's just a little bit out of focus. Kind of ironic that it happened in this video. Enjoy. All right, so maybe I've made a few mistakes, and 5 is pretty generous. But part of growing is learning what works and what doesn't. So here are 5 mistakes that I have made over the years and what I've learned from them. So you don't have to make the same mistakes I did. You get to go out and make your own mistakes. And then when you make your own YouTube video about those mistakes, please tag me in them because I would love to hear about it. All right, so number 1, only learning from other photographers. Number 2, how much money you make with your self-worth. Number 3, counsel versus opinion. Number 4, feeling like you've made it. And number 5, time management. So let's dive into number 1. Only learning from other photographers. When I first got into the scene back in 2010, we didn't have all these YouTube channels. We didn't have the podcasts that are available, all the amazing courses that are out there. And I didn't know where else to learn from. But, I did my research. F-Stopper's blog was pretty big at the time. And, I don't even remember the name of the paper magazines that we used to buy in the bookstores that don't even exist anymore. But I would learn from those articles, follow those photographers. Instagram was like a brand new thing. And there were some resources out there. But I quickly learned that while I can learn lighting, I could learn posing, the things that actually helped me build a photography business weren't going to come from those photographers. Nowadays, you can absolutely learn how to run a business from a photographer. Go to boudoirguild.com. And now that I have those options, I'm so thankful for that. But at the time, we didn't have those. So I had to learn from other business owners, other professionals outside of our industry. And I'm so grateful that I did. And that was one of the reasons that I launched Photogs Unite, which was my previous education brand, all about the business of photography, and the podcast that I launched with that, where I did 100 episodes. I never interviewed a single photographer, with the exception of one, but she's also a lawyer. So if you don't know who Rachel Branke is, the Law Tog, go check her out. But everybody else were professionals from other industries, and that's who I've run with for the past 7-8 years. And my business has exploded since I've got to know these people. So for example, Brian Smith, the founder of UGG Boots. I'd love to have him on this channel as well to talk about branding, but he's someone I've got to hang out with many times. And, we watched the Super Bowl together a few years ago and critiqued all the commercials, which was a super fun thing to do. But learning branding from the dude who built UGG Boots, phenomenal, right? Other creative marketing techniques that I've learned from just people in every different industry, like Joe Pulizzi, the godfather of content marketing. He was one of my first interviews on the podcast. I've read all of his books, listened to his podcast, seen him live a couple times, had a beer with him. Super cool dude. And I learned so much about content marketing. Fun fact, this channel is content marketing. It's creating valuable content for your audience to get them into your world. And then if you like what I do and want to buy the thing I have, then I make it available for you at boudoirguild.com. So learning from people who were doing things outside the industry was an absolute game changer for me. And again, nowadays you can get phenomenal resources from photographers who'll teach you how to run a business, how to light, how to pose, how to shoot, all of that. but I wouldn't limit yourself to that. It's a great foundation. You can absolutely build a multi-six-figure business, boudoirguild.com. But I would also recommend following other people like Amy Porterfield, who is the queen of email marketing and list building. Russell Brunson, same thing. If you want to know about marketing and funnels and how to convert leads into paying clients, Funnel Hackers is brilliant. So find other resources outside the photography industry. And if you want more ideas, join the Facebook group for Boudoir Guild, which will be down in the links below, and we can chat about it over there. All right, number 2, associating your self-worth with how well your business is doing. This is something I'm still working on, and it's been 12 years. Because my business is my baby. It's my livelihood. It's my pride. It's making my parents proud of me and showing my friends and my other loved ones that I can do this. I can dictate my own terms. I can build the life that I want without doing the traditional, corporate track. I'm in Silicon Valley. Everyone here works corporate jobs. So I'm the only one of my friends who isn't in that world, outside the photography space. And I love it. The fact that I can work from home in my pajamas most of the day, pre-pandemic, and set how much money I want to make and do all these things, phenomenal. But when I have a slow month, I need to remember that that is not a reflection of my worth as a human, and it's making time to be with my friends and doing things that add value to my life outside of work. Like playing disc golf has been a huge thing for me this year. I want to compete in a tournament and actually place in it next summer is a goal of mine. There's a major tournament coming around and I want to compete in that and do well. So I've set that goal for myself, and that's the thing that I work on my spare time. So I'm finding other ways to celebrate wins, other ways to keep myself lifted up and to honor the hard work that I've done and everything that I've accomplished over the years. Because slow revenue or slow months, maybe I'll run 6 different ad campaigns like what happened to me this summer. I mean, none of my ads were converting. Thankfully, I was booked out several months, but I like to be booked out at least 6 months. 3 to 4 is not enough of a cushion for me to feel good as a business owner. So continuously trying different ad campaigns, and then finally got 2 that stick. And now I'm doing, 3 to 4 consults a day, booking myself out. But it was a rough, 8 to 12 weeks of just crickets with all of my, thousands of dollars in ad spend that didn't convert anything, which was really hard. It's am I even a good marketer? Do I deserve to be doing this? But yes, because a good marketer will keep trying things and learning from the data until something works. And now it works. Therefore, I'm a good marketer again. But that's the roller coaster that I have been on. And I encourage you to create reminders of your accomplishments, how far you've come, so that you don't associate downtimes with a loss of self-value. All right, number 3, counsel versus opinion. This was one of the things that I learned from my mentor, Greg Reed, and it has been an absolute game changer. And it kind of ties back to number 1. So counsel is getting advice on something from someone who's done it. And opinion is getting advice from somebody who hasn't done it. So if I want to launch a new social media presence, say I want to get on TikTok, and I'm asking a group of my friends around a beer, during a football game, hey, what do you guys think about TikTok? Do you think I should launch a channel on there and generate, leads that way? Well, if they're not actually running businesses and using TikTok to generate leads, then they're only going to give me their opinion. And it's gonna be I don't know, man, you're good at everything else. You might as well do it, or whatever, asking your spouse, asking your best friend, asking people who aren't doing the things that you want to be doing is only hurting you. When you go on Facebook and you make a post that says, hey, here's my new price list, do you guys think I'm charging too much? If those aren't your ideal clients or aren't photographers doing what you want to do, they're only giving you opinion, and that is not the information that you need. It's only going to move you in the wrong direction. Whereas if you go into a Facebook group, like the one for the Boudoir Guild, and you post your price list and say, hey, what do you guys think? You can get feedback from photographers who are making the money that you want to make, and they can tell you whether or not your price list is good. Also, if you're getting a ton of phone calls and everyone's telling you you're too expensive, it means you're either going after the wrong people or you aren't offering enough for the money that you're charging. Because I have clients who are happy to write me checks for $4,000, $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 and refer all their friends to me. And so I know that I can charge that much, and everyone who is my ideal client is totally fine with that. But I also get on phone consults with people who are like, yeah, I'd love to book a boudoir session with you. And then I know you do high school seniors, so I want to get my daughter to do a session also. And can you do my husband's headshot? I'm like, totally. We go over all the information. I share the pricing. And she's like, oh, my budget was like $300 for all of it. And I'm like, cool. You're not my ideal client. It has nothing to do with me. She's not a bad person, not my ideal client. But asking the wrong people for advice and feedback is absolutely going to move me in the wrong direction, which is why I learn from people who aren't in my industry. If I want to learn marketing, I'm going to go with someone who has generated millions or tens of millions in revenue. If I want to learn email automation, I'm going to follow somebody like Amy Porterfield. I know I've already mentioned her again. She is amazing. She makes a boatload of money doing webinars, email automations. Everything is automated and systematized and built around a productive team, which is how to run a business. So that's who I want to learn from. People already doing the things that I want to do. And I'm not going to ask people what their opinions are if they're not doing the thing that I want to do. It's only hurting both of you. All right, number 4, feeling like you've made it. There's no such thing as having made it. When I first got into the industry, I thought, cool, I'm gonna be making all this money. I'm gonna do red carpet events. I'm gonna have magazine covers and maybe a movie poster out somewhere and like billboards and all this cool stuff. And then I'm just gonna be so famous and busy that I'm gonna have like this whole team around me, locations all over the country. I'm gonna be super famous. It's gonna be amazing. Well, I've got movie posters. I've had billboards. My work has been in Times Square. I've done album covers. I've done magazine covers. I'm making multiple 6 figures in revenue. I've hired a team around me. I don't feel like I've made it, honestly. But that's the whole thing. You know, we think, okay, once I get to that point where I've made it, I can let off the throttle. I can do whatever. But that's not how any of this works. You know, it's like, okay, I'm going to go until I can generate $100,000 in revenue. That is a goal. That's not making it. That is having a goal. And once you get to that point, you're like, okay, cool. How do I make 130, 150? How do I make 200,000? How do I repeat the things I've done so I can make more money without having to reinvent the whole process again? And then you hit 200,000. You're like, cool, how do I get to 500,000? And that's where I am right now. I'm aiming for 500,000 in revenue. And then once I hit that, my goal in the next 2.5 years is to break 7 figures. So that's what I'm working on. But when I get to that point, I probably won't feel like I've made it either. You know, who knows what I'll be doing when I get to that point. 2 million? I don't know. I'm going to open up franchises. We'll see. But the idea is there's no making it. You know, once you open up a studio, you haven't made it. People aren't going to fall in love with everything you do and throw all the money at you just because you have a studio with a sign out front. Because I've done that too. I had a studio for a while and nobody cared. I didn't make any more money with that studio than I did, you know, renting a space from somebody else or now, you know, working out of my home studio, which has been my favorite setup so far. So set goals, go after your goals, but there's at no point where you've made it. That's like saying, cool, I'm smart enough. I'm never going to learn anything else again. Or I'm happy enough, or I'm in good enough shape. I never need to do a single sit-up again. It just doesn't happen. You hit a goal, you move on to the next goal. And as soon as you adopt that mindset, everything gets so much easier. Okay, number 5 is time management. This is a huge one. I read this article on f-stoppers or ISO 12000. I don't know. I believe it was f-stoppers, and it was the most important tool that helped me elevate my business or something along the lines of that title. This was years ago. And I thought, oh, is it, you know, new camera, new lighting system, editing platform, whatever. I opened it up and it was a time clock. The guy literally bought a clock to time how many hours a day he was actually working versus just being busy and doing stuff. And he found that he's only spending like 3 hours a day working. He's like, well, no wonder I haven't hit my financial goals. I'm barely working part-time. If I actually put 40 hours into the business, what can I get out of that? And Michael Hyatt has great books on time management. I definitely recommend picking up some of those. But the idea is, how do I get as much done in as little time as possible? And part of that is being a good CEO. People want to be their own boss. They don't actually do things that bosses do. So when you have meetings with yourself and you have a marketing plan and you have revenue goals and you have systems in place, you can look at your goals. You can look at your systems. Are the systems moving you toward the goals? Yes. Cool. How do I scale that up? If not, how do I change the systems to move me toward my goals? You have regular check-ins. I do them weekly, I do them monthly, I do them quarterly, and I got a big annual one. And that's where I do all this goal setting and these check-ins. I have meetings with myself. And because of that, I can look at some of the things that I'm doing and saying, okay, I've been spending way too much time researching this. I've been putting too much time over into these things. None of this is actually generating revenue. Do I stop it? Do I outsource it? And then how do I free up more of my time to do things that actually make me money, which is what happens when I'm photographing people or I'm in the sales room. So outsourcing everything else has been a great way for me to free up time that I can go play disc golf and like sleep and hang out with friends while still making money doing the things that I'm doing. So that's a big win. Time management is huge. How can you get more done in less time? There's the work smarter, not harder thing. You got to work hard, but you also work smart. You work smarter and harder. That is how you're going to succeed. And I guess, well, I've only made 5 mistakes in my career, and those were the 5. So I guess we're done here. All right, fine, maybe one more. So one more, bonus one. Number 6 is not disclosing your prices. This is a huge one for brand new photographers because you're probably afraid of sharing your prices and having people think you're too expensive, which is either a personal block for you or it means you need to offer more. So when I did one of my very, very, very first sessions ever, it was a family shoot for a friend I'd gone to college with. And we went out to the park. We did a great shoot. Then I sent her my PDF price list and she's like, cool. Well, I can probably only afford like $100. So I guess I'll get an 8x10 because that was the only thing under $100 on my menu. And I could tell by the tone of her voice, she was like really not cool with how that whole thing went down. I'm like, well, shoot. That's totally on me because I didn't share any of this information ahead of time. So disclosing the prices up front. Now, this doesn't mean you have to put your entire menu on your website. I usually don't because I don't want people price shopping. I want them to get to know me and what I do and the value that I add to their lives. Then we can talk money because I can give them a dollar amount, but if they don't know what they're getting, the dollar amount means nothing, right? If I tell you my cell phone, I'll sell you this phone right here for $50. You're like, oh, cool, iPhone for $50? Yeah, I'll buy that. But if I'm like, I will sell you this phone for $10,000, you're like, there's no way I'm going to buy a $10,000 iPhone. Why would I? But then if you're like, oh man, you've got phone numbers of all these people that I've wanted to meet, all these different executives from, big companies around the world that I could learn from and access to different, entrepreneur events and different things like that, where I could go make, an extra $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 in my business. $10,000 doesn't seem so bad, right? Totally stole that from Russell Brunson, by the way. But the point is, without disclosing value, they don't know what the dollars actually get them. So what I do on my consult calls is I tell people the cost of the photo shoot, everything that's included. Once we've had a conversation about getting them to sell the shoot to themselves, you can get that training in theboudoirguild.com. But then when it comes time to actually discuss the cost of the prints and everything, which is the real expense here, I talk about the different products. I talk about how I want them to just choose the ones that they love. There's no obligation to buy what they don't want. This isn't a high pressure sales situation. And then I say most clients plan to spend X amount of dollars based on whatever the genre is, and it's totally up to you how much you want to buy. And I just give them a baseline to kind of test the waters. I found that like $1,200 to $1,500 is a good range there. If someone isn't willing to spend $500, they're not going to spend $1,000. But if someone is willing to spend $1,500, they will spend $3,000 or more. So that is what I found is a good number. I don't want to say $1,000 and then have somebody come in and be like, none of your albums even start at $1,000. I thought you said I could spend $1,000. I'm like, you can if you want a 12 by 18 metal print. So I give them the baseline of $1,500, and then that will pre-qualify them because if they can afford $1,500, they can afford more generally. So that was another huge lesson, and I could go on for days and days and days, but literally everything else on this channel I've learned from making mistakes. I didn't go to school for this. I didn't have the great training videos over at boudoirguild.com to teach me all this stuff. I just figured it out on my own. And I'm sharing all that with you now. So hopefully you've learned a ton and you can go out and make your own mistakes now instead of copying mine. But you're probably still gonna because it's a thing that everyone works through. But at least now you have a head start. So my 6 mistakes that I've made over the years. Number 1, only learning from photographers. Number 2, assigning your revenue with your self-worth. Number 3, seeking counsel versus opinion. Number 4, feeling like you've ever made it. Number 5 is the value of time management. And number 6, disclosing your prices upfront, because no one likes surprises like that. So there you go. You are amazing. I have a ton of other great videos on this channel about lighting, about posing, about selling, about all of the things. Or again, just head to boudoirguild.com where I can walk you through all of the ways I make multiple six figures in my business so you can do the same. You're amazing. We'll see you inside.